Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Smart Money Mo, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my Bitcoin prediction and how I managed to call the Bitcoin crash to the exact entry point using the Wyckoff theory, and how you can mirror this in your own day-to-day trading. And so to begin with this video, I'll break down the Wyckoff prediction, and next we will go on to my overall thoughts on Bitcoin, what I think is currently happening, what has happened, and what I predict will happen in the future. And lastly, we'll go over my big announcement, which is that I will be releasing a mentorship very soon. It will include my full smart money course, and yeah, more on that later on in the video, so stay tuned. But let's just move on with this absolutely killer trade. So if I show you guys the screenshots that I had taken before the crash happened, so you can see that none of this crash had happened. This was on May the 8th of this year, of 2021. And on the daily time frame, I had begun to see the Wyckoff distribution playing out, right? And if any of you out there are, beginners, or you don't know what Wyckoff distribution is, Wyckoff distribution is essentially a schematic which Smart Money prints out to a chart, which allows them to distribute a large order across an area where the liquidity can be provided for the smaller positions of a large position. So to simplify this, what I mean is, let's say Smart Money had $100 million, right? And they wanted to distribute this $100 million across an area. They would use a Wyckoff distribution to do this. So let's say over here there was liquidity created. Smart Money will grab the liquidity and open a position here. And they will continue to do this at various points of the Wyckoff distribution. For example, the buyer's climax, the UT, the UTAD. And then what they've done is they've broken down this huge order into smaller orders. And they've distributed it. Hence the name Wyckoff distribution, right? And just to show you this on the actual Bitcoin chart, if I go onto the 4-hour time frame and start breaking, and I'll start breaking this down. So first of any Wyckoff distribution, we will first see our preliminary supply. Our preliminary supply is the area of decreased buying, which causes a movement of consolidation into our buying climax. So what we saw before the preliminary supply is that we saw strong movements to the upside, right? We saw strong bullish movements to the upside. And this was slowed down by the rally, the preliminary supply, right? And we can see that here, it slowed down. And it created liquidity. We can see an area of liquidity has been formed, right? And what happens is, our buyer's climax will grab this liquidity, and then we'll see an order being placed here. And our buyer's climax is when the market breaks out of the consolidation zone, as I've just explained, created by the preliminary supply, and will form a new high in the market, right? And this new high is potentially an area where Smart Money has opened a position. So going back to that example of 100 million, we can assume that Smart Money has opened 25 million here after grabbing this area of liquidity, right? And you constantly see this within a Wyckoff distribution. Liquidity, for example, being formed, then being broken out of, and Smart Money will open a position there. And so yeah, if we just move on with the schematic now. Then we move on to our automatic rally. Our automatic rally is the market retracing after being overbought by the aggressive bullish push of the buyer's climax. So we can see here that it's just that price breaks down below an area of market structure, and this is what we call our automatic rally. Now, just a small side point with Wyckoff distribution is that you may not always see like a strong automatic rally like this one where it breaks a structure. That is not the end of the world. With Wyckoff distribution, you want to be more concerned about the highs rather than the lows in certain points of it. So, for example, here, you shouldn't be too concerned if your automatic rally doesn't break structure to the downside. But it's always a good thing, and you can see here we did have it break structure to the downside, which is a good thing. So now if we move on to our secondary test. Our secondary test is the point at which price will meet up again with our buying climax, right? And you can see I've placed it in two areas. Now, I like this area a lot more for one reason. That is because liquidity was accumulated at this area. We can see that in the form of an equal high. So if I just move this down here, so we can see here there was an equal high. That's very important because I always, like I'm gonna continue to say, and like I've said before in this example over here, that liquidity will be created for Smart Money to grab it and open a position out of the larger position. So now let's go back to our example of 100 million. We can see here we've distributed 25 million and another 25 million. And we will continue to see that because the liquidity that is being created at these areas are being grabbed. And Smart Money is able to open their position, right? And if we move on to so that was our upthrust. And now if we move on to the UTAD, right? we see again at the up thrust, equal highs being created. Now this is a clear sign of market manipulation, right? Liquidity is being created only to be grabbed again. This is a clear sign of Wyckoff distribution, right? So we can now assume again that maybe 50 million has been placed out of the 100 million. And that is essentially what Wyckoff distribution is. Now, let's move on to the UTAD. So now that we've broken structure to the upside of out of these equal highs and this area of liquidity, and we've opened, we can assume that smart money has opened a position here. You're probably wondering, where can I enter? Where can I make money from this, right? Because that's what we're here for in trading. We're here to make money. We're here to get the best entries possible. And first of all, before we get any entries, we need to make sure of one thing, that our UTAD is valid. And a UTAD is valid when there is a break of, first of all, there is a break of structure to the downside. Our UTAD has to break structure to the downside. So we can see here, I've marked out this as a sign of weakness. That's because our UTAD very well did break structure to the downside. It broke this significant structure and this significant structure. So that's very nice. Our UTAD is valid. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look for some zones to enter from. And you can see if I go back to my screenshot that I had taken on May the 8th, I had been looking at 3 zones in particular. So I had these 3 zones. Now out of these three zones, I was most interested in this zone. And if I break that down now on the chart, so you can see here, this zone I was most interested in. That is because that, first of all, this zone had the most area, had the most bearish momentum, right? It had the most bearish momentum out of any of these, and that's important because it validates the supply zone more. So I'm interested in the supply zone. That's number one. Number two, it's not mitigated in any way, right? There is no wicks back into the zone. Price did not come back into the zone. Whereas these 2 zones, it can be argued that price did come back into the zone, right? And third of all, it broke structure to the downside. So that's why I was most interested in this zone. And after that, I just waited for price to come back into our zone. And if I just play this market here, maybe if I go on to the 8 or the daily, it will be a bit quicker. We can see that price taps me in, I'm entered, and then I hit take profit, right? This is essentially what you want to do. You just want to set your entry at the 1 of the order block, your stop loss at the 0, and for targets, you can set multiple targets, right? So let me just go to the 8-hour time frame and break that down. So you can first set a target here, just as a take partial, just to secure some profits, right? And then we can set another one here. So we're setting it there because there's a contesting order block. You can see that there is a bullish order block, and in case there's reaction from it, we want to secure profits because that's what take partials are for. And we can set another one here, right, at a contesting order block. You always want to set your take partials at contesting order blocks or areas of liquidity. And you can see again here, I'll set at another contesting order block, and you can see my final take profit is set at this last bullish order block over here, just above it. So yeah, that's my overall Bitcoin prediction. That was my entry. You know, that was everything to do with that. So if we now move on to my overall thoughts on Bitcoin, part 2 of this video. So essentially, what I think is going on with Bitcoin is we are currently in a Wyckoff price cycle. Now, if I bring up this diagram, what we usually see in the Wyckoff price cycle is that we see an accumulation, a move up, a distribution, which is what I just broke down, and then a move down, and then again we repeat the cycle over and over again, right? And if I just show you that over here, we see our accumulation, our move to the upside, then the distribution, which I just pointed out and I just broke down with the Bitcoin crash. And then if I just, get out of replay mode, we can begin to see that price then moves down. And now we are in our reaccumulation, right? We are in this accumulation again. And now what we can look for is price to go up, distribute again, and so on and so forth, right? So be looking out for Bitcoin to redistribute or distribute, and then just try and follow your the Wyckoff price cycle. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Bitcoin for the future. And lastly, my announcement. My announcement is that I will be releasing a mentorship very, very, very soon. In fact, in my next video, I'll be releasing it, which is extremely soon. And included in this mentorship will be a full smart money A to Z course. It will take you from wherever you are at now to a top tier trader who can trade independently with all the knowledge about market structure, Wyckoff, liquidity, order blocks, risk control, and my own private strategies that only my students know. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Any questions, let me know on Telegram, Instagram, or in the comment section down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.